guys, you remember the scanner? That one over here. It's a bit taken apart. That's the disc. Oh look, you see some traces. I mean, I had it running for a while and it did a good job. It generated the data set. Now I have to check on the machine learning side how to use it. But it worked so far. But there's just one thing I noticed. Is this surface here is very wobbly. That means that as soon as I have a little bit heavier objects on here, it's not working as it should. And the whole thing is wobbly. I mean, this one is wobbly too. And it's also difficult to transport because this one, the camera arm doesn't fit inside the box completely. There is a way to get it in, but it just sticks out a little bit. So that's not super comfortable. And maybe some of you know that I'm a kind of a dumpster diver. If I pass across some waste container, I tend to look inside. And funnily, I passed a waste container of a company and it had about 10 or even more than 10 really nice boxes inside. Let me show you. Look at this. It's a proper, we call them flight case, I think. I mean, it's like the music industry, like you have it when you go to a gig, when you go to an open air. You have these nice butterfly locks, we have strong wheels underneath, we have even a handle to carry it around. And what is awesome, that one would fit inside. The round disc, of course, would also fit inside, and it's just all more rigid. And so I think I'll have to build a second scanner, a version 2 of the scanner inside this box. Easier to carry around, looks a bit more professional. And in the meantime, I will also rebuild the whole mechanics in a stronger way so they support more weight, so I can put heavier objects to rotate them and take pictures. Luckily, I know all electronics is working, all software is working, so I'm definitely not starting from zero. I'm just transplanting all the mechanics. Let's get started. The real challenge I am facing is how to properly support my rotating disc. Because the old one was very wobbly and I don't want that anymore. I want a really stable setup allowing me to really put a lot of weight on top to be sure that that's gonna hold. So that's these small ball bearings and stuff, it's just, it feels too weak for me. Could put the motor on this side, but the motor also is too weak. I can't use that tiny 5mm motor shaft to put a lot of weight on it. So I'm first looking to have a proper support for that rotating disc, and after that find a way to drive it. They're gonna make the hole on this side anyway, because it's way more rigid if I put the wheel this side. Okay, now I have my brackets with my wheels and I just need to screw them down here. So now let me check the distance. I have my drive wheel. Look, that's the motor, and it has, I had this pulley with a rough surface, and I somehow mounted it at the right distance, so you see it slightly pushes into the soft rubber, so I'm pretty sure that I have a nice traction, and it will drive the whole thing for at least a few kilometers, so a few thousand scans, and after that we can look at it again. But so that will then be my drive for the rotating disc. I'm not sure if I told you that I like to use Ethernet cables for all kinds of stuff, and fixed installation Ethernet or phone line cables, these are straight wires, solid wires, so they are very useful for breadboard stuff and fixed installations. And of course Ethernet cables that are made for flexible installations are useful for this. And since you have 8 wires, you can just use the twisted pair. I soldered the twisted pairs together to give me a little bit more cross section. Actually, this one is a solid wire, so that is pretty cool for a fixed installation. But now if I have the cover, I'd like to take another one, because it may break after some wiggling back and forth. And the good thing about this is it's also shielded, so if you have motor current going through, it's a bit better to have it shielded. So in my wire collection I have found this little thing, which looks not too bad. It should be doing the trick. But actually I should also somehow ground it if I have the shield, because it's a bit worthless to have a shield and not have a proper ground connection. It's always good to have some weight on your cable so it's not jumping around. Right. Oh, why didn't I forgot to turn on the iron. It helps if you turn on your soldering iron. I mean, my soldering trick sometimes is to put the flux on the wire. If you have additional flux, then you can work with a drop of solder at the end of your tip, and then you don't need to add all the times additional solder. It's certainly not the official way of doing it, but one that have worked very fine for me. Putting some shrink tube around this is not a luxury. Back in the Evercook days I had some of these wires sticking out and leading to a nasty short circuit, and it fried me my Raspberry Pi, because I mean I had an induction heater, so it was very high voltage going down to the Raspberry Pi, and he didn't survive that. So it's really nice so to don't have this kind of brush at the end. One important thing I totally neglected while building my second version of a scanner, the big issue I had is that since I have my rotating point back here and my arm is moving like this, there is no possibility to set the camera down here, to set the camera in a fixed position that will always point to the center of the disc. So I realized, oh, I need to make this angle adjustable. I started with a common servo from an RC car, but somehow that one was a bit jiggly. So now I went to a proper solution with, as you can see, so now I have a proper solution with a stepper motor driver and even an induction switch, so I can use that one as a reference to zero it, and then I can precisely tilt my camera. And so that was definitely one thing I needed to do additionally to have this scanner up and running. But now it works. It seems as I have a torque issue on the disc rotation motor. I have to check that because it's not rotating as it should. See, it doesn't rotate. But that's something that appeared only after some time. So I think I'm pushing too hard into the rubber wheel, and so the rubber wheel gets slightly dented, and that's why it doesn't get out of it. I have to check that. So it's still not working, but I keep working until it works. I found out why the motor is not working. I have broken off my motor axle. This is the rotor, and you see that little bit, actually that comes here. It's broken because I had a roller pressing against the rubber roller skate wheel I had, and so I had this pressure roll with friction, and to have enough friction I put a lot of pressure on it, and obviously too much, and so that slightly bended the motor axle, and through the rotation the axle was bent back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until it broke. So new motor in, and this time with much less pressure, and I hope that I don't get too much bend on the motor axle, and that it will work for some time at least. Yeah, next try. Object is on the table, and start. We'll see how it does. Thanks for watching.